There's a few news articles that I like. You can get $15 from Zoom just from using Zoom. Zoom apparently leaked data to Facebook, and you can get 25 or even more if you're a paying Zoom customer, and if you're a non-paying Zoom customer, you can get 15 bucks. So that's a thrill. I'll throw that in the chat for people who want 15 bucks. All right. So in the United States, you can get a COVID booster shot after 6 months for Pfizer or Moderna. But in the UK, they're going to lower that to 3 months. And I've seen a graph, and from that graph, it looked like 6 months is the logical time. Looked like 3 months, the protection range is about the same. But anyway, that's what they're going to do there. Of course, it's a bigger pause between the original 2 shots in the UK, I think. So it may not be the timing is the same as here. Anyway. Everybody is just guessing. This is why a lot of people say the shots don't work, because you still get COVID, you can still spread it. I mean, nothing is perfect, and everything is pretty much a guess. We won't have perfect data until 5 years later when it's way too late, so we're making the best guess we can. But one thing I just heard on the news right before I turned this on is that in South Africa, where people are getting the new Omicron variant, almost all the people that got it were unvaccinated. And they do have a lot of vaccinated people there, like 1/6 of people, so they know that. So that would suggest that the vaccines do stop the new variant, and it's really a good idea to get vaccinated and boosted, even with the ordinary vaccine, to protect you from the new variant that's coming, in addition to the old ones that are out there, like Delta. So I hadn't seen this before. I haven't got much in the way of security defenses for Linux, but this stuff called Sandfly looks kind of like Velociraptor to me. It doesn't require an agent on your Linux box. All it requires is SSH credentials. It will then log into your Linux box, and it will then decide whether what you got is suspicious. So here's somebody getting infected with some malware, some kind of rootkit for Linux, and VirusTotal doesn't detect it at all. Just one virus engine out of the like 60 or 70 they have detected it. But Sandfly detects a whole bunch of suspicious activities. It detects things like hidden processes, high entropy, binaries, persistence techniques. This sounds like a really good idea. It just flags things for being suspicious, for doing suspicious activities, and it does it remotely. So I'm thinking this may be something to add to one of my courses in the future. I don't think I'm going to do it this semester. These guys, this product is not free, but apparently you can get a free 1-year trial license or something, so that's good enough. So that sounds very interesting, to practice detecting malware on Linux remotely. So that's an interesting product, and we'll see. Anyway, so an FBI official document has leaked. It was not supposed to be public, which shows what data the feds can get about your online chat. And none of these permit them to get the actual contents of your chat messages, which is, of course, the main point, I think, for most people. And that's why a lot of people say they shouldn't even be reporting this at all as a problem. But what they mostly get is your pen register. And a pen register is often all you need. And a pen register is just a list of who you chatted, at what time, and for how long. And it turns out that the primary chat applications, WhatsApp and Apple iMessage, both provide that data all the time to law enforcement. And I think WhatsApp is the one that will provide it like immediately. Or one of these provides it like within just an hour or two. The other makes the feds wait a couple days, so they can find out who you've been texting, although not the contents of your text. So anyway, various people are freaking out and saying this means they aren't safe and you should move to a app like, I think, Signal, that really can't give them hardly anything. But anyway, it's interesting to find out what they can get. So Budweiser released a bunch of NFTs trying to sell these as souvenirs and make money, and apparently they screwed it all up. They put it on Ethereum at beer.eth. When I tried it, beer.eth wouldn't even load. A bunch of people tried to buy these things and found out that it freezes out. They can't get it. Even if you pay for it, the page freezes and you don't get it, and everybody is just freaking out. So apparently they incompetently released their Budweiser based NFTs. Not terribly surprising. It's a new technology, and apparently they hired a bad consultant to do it or something. Maybe they got it fixed by now, maybe not. A lot of people are having trouble, of course, with NFTs. They're new and rolled out, often incompetently. Speaking of which, the whole internet is incredibly unstable, unsafe. This is a surprising one to me. I heard about this 20, 30 years ago. Border Gateway Protocol is used to route traffic from one major internet service provider to another. And Mudge warned Congress decades ago that it was unsafe, but I didn't realize how unsafe. When one of those providers wants to update a route at the layer of BGP, which will take a whole bunch of IP addresses and send them somewhere else, so you could reroute a whole bunch of the internet that way, they have to authenticate. And here's one where the original old technique, they put a password in the text of an email, which is not a very good place to put a password. PGP key sounds pretty good. They sign it with an encryption key, but the most incredible one is mail from. They just changed the from address on an email to the official address, and that authenticates them. And anybody can change the from address on any email to anything they want. So this is ridiculous. And now that after this article was published and they contacted this internet provider level 3 communications and said, you guys are still supporting this ridiculously old and insecure protocol, they said they're updating it, but they also said they had already deployed compensating controls, so it wasn't as bad as it looks, which is, by the way, entirely plausible. If I was running the company and I had customers that were still using this, I would probably do something like only accept those customer addresses and nothing else, so nobody else fails, and maybe restrict it by IP address or something. They also claim that there's no evidence that anybody actually used this vulnerability anywhere, which I think is probably true, but it is pretty shockingly unsafe to use that technique, and it's good that they're finally turning that off. You can if you update Windows 10 to Windows 11, you can roll it back, but only for 10 days. After that, Microsoft turns off the ability to roll back just to punish you, and this is probably to try to get more people on Windows 11. Microsoft did the same thing to Windows 10. They put out Windows 10, and most everybody said, I'm happy with Windows 7 or 8.1. What do I want your stinking Windows 10 for? And Microsoft got pushier and pushier, trying to trick you and force you into upgrading, and now they're trying to somehow trick and force people to upgrade to Windows 11. Currently, the Windows 11 adoption rate is 0.2%, not even 1%. Nobody wants it. There's no reason to get it. And Microsoft is trying to shove everybody into it one way or another. So Microsoft is acting very, very evil the last few months. They're reverting back to the way Microsoft was before the big antitrust lawsuit. Slamming people into products they don't want, blocking competing products, and so on. This is the sort of stuff that may eventually lead to antitrust enforcement, although I think the risk is pretty small because I think they're embroiled with other problems at Washington. I think after 22, the Republicans will take the House, and it'll just be more and more chaos in Washington. So realistically, I think antitrust enforcement is just not going to be a priority of the U.S. government for at least another 6 or 10 years. So you can probably get away with all the abuse you want in the meantime. Anyway, that's all the news. Let me